Welcome, guys, to another episode of Revive to Stage. And we've got us back here after those special episodes with Luke. And me and Luke have competed now, and we'll touch on that. And it has been a week since my show, which has gone really quick, but also feels like my show was ages ago. And in that week, quite a lot happened, actually, and in the week prior, because Pascal's not been well. And actually, before we dig into the episode, and I haven't even passed this by Pascal, I really wanted to just say that for any competitors listening to this, the 2018 season is approaching. So if you've listened to these episodes, you've heard about how we've approached our time towards stage, you're thinking about competing in 2018, this is the time to actually get your application forms in to us, because this is when we want athletes early. Because if we can get you in early, we can plan our macro cycles early ahead of time. We can get you ready early. We can instigate diet breaks. We can instigate maintenance period. Whoever remembers marination phases, we can pinpoint your posing. All of these details, we can get you feeling and looking your absolute best for stage. And if my season's anything to go by, kind of, if I can do that and produce that for my clients, I'm super excited for that. And I mean, same with Pascal. I know we both really want some kind of high quality clients, and the best way to get the highest quality is to get you in early so we can build that relationship and build that plan. Anything to add to that?
Yes, bikini clients and bikini athletes as well, I think. Simply because, so many bikini athletes and also men's physique athletes think that they only need 2 to 3 months to prep for a competition. For some people, it might be the case if they always stayed on the leaner side and didn't build some weird habits or not as good of a food relationship or something like that. But I see it with so many bikini athletes who approach us because they come from such a bad place in terms of food relationship, how they look at everything. They underate for quite a long amount of time, and perhaps even lost their menstrual cycle, never got it back, and stuff like that. And we want to actually reverse them, build them to a healthy state, and then actually prepare them for a competition. And this takes time. And I have a bikini athlete right now who's prepping for 2018. Shout out to Wendy. And she approached us simply because she wasn't in the best place possible, and she was aware of that. And she knew that if she wants to compete in the future, she needs to reverse something and needs to be first in a healthy state to then be able to actually get the best package on stage as possible. And this simply takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, I think I completely agree. I've got a men's physique competitor right now who wanted to compete at the end of this year, and he simply wasn't in a position to. He gained too much fluff, as it were, from his past season, yet hadn't built calories very high. So it's kind of like one of the worst positions possible. It's kind of like you still need to recover from your past shows, yet you're kind of out of condition for competing. So I think the earlier you guys can kind of get in with us, as it were, the better, because it's great to have athletes for a long period of time, but the longer we can have with you, the longer we can develop that relationship and get you set up for a proper macro cycle and really plan every single detail as best we can. Things like birthdays, holidays, we can plan around that, make life livable.
You have a really good case study, right? Lily, who just competed and got the junior title, right?
Yeah. UKBFF, she won the junior title. So her just maturity and our time together, it just is outstanding how well everything went, and she just felt her best. And post shows before, she'd always kind of slightly fell off the wagon, which I think a lot of bikini athletes end up doing. But this time she's in a great place and actually decided not to do finals yet, because now actually she just started a new job and things like this, new career. But after a few weeks, it's become apparent that she's stable. She actually is in a really good place, and she's probably going to do finals now, even though we started reversing we kind of started building up calories. So she's had a break from dieting, but now we're going to have a whole month to then prep her, and she's in a great position. Whereas if she'd gone off the like lost it basically after those shows, we wouldn't be able to do what we're going to be doing. So it's really impressive, and I'm so
man, that's amazing to hear. But I was more so referring to when Lily came back to you, that she wanted to do a certain show, which wasn't really the best moment to actually step on stage, and you discussed it with her. You both talked about it, the pros and cons, and then both of you decided to actually delay on stepping on stage, and it was the best decision in the end, right? I mean, now she actually took first place, was able to qualify for finals. I mean, what better outcome is there?
No, exactly. It was the case of like rushing to get it done before a holiday, and then kind of going on holiday straight after the show. And I was just like, no, we'll use that. Well, I wasn't like, no, but I suggested we use that holiday as a diet break, and then go for a show a few weeks down the line. And yeah, it's really good because people get very pinned on certain shows, but she was able to be mature about it and respect that, take my point of view. So no, that was really good. And but we could talk about it for ages. Basically, guys, get your application forms in as soon as possible so we can start building that relationship. Because
and that was the episode of this one.
we could probably do a whole episode on that sort of topic.
Absolutely.
But we want to start off with catching up with Pascal. Everyone really enjoyed hearing about Pascal and how everything's been going for him post-show.
No surprise, really. I mean, come on.
He's boring as hell, really. But there has been something that's happened, and I'm interested as well, where Pascal unfortunately got a chest infection and was pretty severely ill. We compared lung infection, and so he wasn't able to come to my show, which is really disappointing, but completely understandable. And so you've not been training. Today was your first session back for a while. If you just want to touch on kind of how you handled it mentally, and then like your nutrition, your training, what do you do? A lot of people are sometimes confused in what they should do when they're ill and how they should train. And obviously this is kind of, it was a bad illness, so it wasn't just like a head cold.
No, sure thing. I mean, where should I start? As you can hear in my voice, perhaps you can still hear it a little bit. Out of breath super easily. And it is quite funny because I still was doing my client updates. I was still standing at this point here, and it was already super exhausting to only stand and talk. Like after 5 minutes, I was so out of breath and like dizzy in my head and stuff like that because a lung infection, if you ever had it, man, it's severe. It doesn't sound like that severe. I had it in the past already when I was younger, so I knew what's going on, and I knew how severe it actually can be. And people get into the hospital sometimes when it's really super extreme. But in my case, I was simply super exhausted all the time. Had fever in the first days, and I went to the doctor after a couple of days, got some medicine, like codeine, which is a opiate.
Painkiller, right? It's a strong painkiller.
Yeah, super strong painkiller. Not really a painkiller. It's more, it's in the category of opiates, like morphine and stuff like that. So really calmed me down. It is kind of a painkiller, but not really a painkiller. It's not an opiate is not really only there for actually reducing the pain or stuff like that. But I mean, it gives you the numb feeling. Your brain isn't really working, so you're really on drugs, right? And it all made things seem a little bit brighter. And what I did in terms of nutrition is simply that I try to hit my calories on a maintenance level, even a little bit slightly above, being isocaloric, so just hitting my protein targets, carb targets, fat targets, without going really overboard. And so many people then are concerned like, okay, I'm not moving. Should I reduce my calories? And this is the worst thing you can do, because when we take things into consideration and keep in mind that a caloric deficit is a stress for your body, and the body is already coping with a severe illness, which is a stressor as well. Stress is stress is stress. The body doesn't make any differences in that. So I by all means wanted to avoid being in a caloric deficit. So I just ate isocaloric, sometimes a little bit more, also because I was bored, right? This is easily a thing to do then. And also I was watching so many films and shows, which is insane because I have this whole list of movies and TV shows I wanted to watch. And I never had the chance of actually going through them. And it was just accumulating because there was always new movies coming out, new TV shows, and I couldn't catch up with it. And I'm a really TV show nerd when it comes to that. And over the past... Yeah, it's an Excel list on Google Sheets, actually. But anyway, I was then able to actually go through everything. It was fucking boring at some point, but this is what I needed to do. And this brings me to the point of, yes, I did not train at all because, again, training is a stressor. And when you are ill, you should always ask yourself a couple of things before hitting the gym. First, are you contagious? There's nothing more bad, in my opinion, than when you're super contagious and you're still going out, because it's super egoistic, right? You're just smitting everyone around you and the illness is just spreading. So are you contagious? If you can say, no, you're not, then the next question you should ask yourself is, are you actually feeling like you could progressively overload? If the answer is no, stay at home. Give your body some rest. And in my case, I was highly contagious. I was definitely not able to progressively overload, right? And I would have done more harm than good for my body when I would say, okay, I'm hitting the gym only because I want to. And the thing is, I'm always planning in like, I call them forced deloads in a year with my clients as well. Like things when you're getting severely ill, you're getting severely injured, or when there are social events or holidays coming up. Those are like the forced deloads. How often does that happen throughout the year? Like severe injuries, hopefully not really frequently. Severe illness, same with that one. And a holiday, here in Germany, we have I think 25 days are the norm, from the government. I know other countries don't have that one, but it's not really higher in other countries. Not significantly. So perhaps you are on holiday 4 weeks over the year. Out of 52 weeks? Over 10 years? That's nothing. And those rest days are even more beneficial, I think, for the body to actually heal and recover tendons, ligaments, give them some rest as well, because tendons, joints need more time to recover and for repairment than muscle fibers. And I think that you're doing yourself more good than harm when you're taking some time really completely off the gym. And also there was this study where people were training for 15 weeks. And one group trained through those 15 weeks for the entire time, and the other group took a 3-week break in between, and both saw the same results in terms of hypertrophy. You can't really say that high-level athletes will see the same. There will probably happen some undertraining as well, and just a small regression, but in the whole bigger picture, when taking things into consideration in terms of rest, recovery, joints, ligaments, also the mental aspect, I think that there's only benefits in taking some time off, and especially when you're ill.
Yeah.
That's the point.
No, I think you touched on some great points there, and like, especially the nutrition one, in that I hate it. You see, and I get people and even clients sometimes, although most of them understand now that it's not a good idea to try and diet when they can't train. Like, if you can't train, don't try and diet, because what's the one thing keeping your muscle there that's more important than protein? You could have the biggest protein intake in the world, but if you're not training your muscles, they're not going to hang around. So you totally do not want to be dieting. And the worst thing is you prolong whatever it might be, illness or recovery from an injury. If you try and diet through that, it just is such a bad idea. And again, when you talk about, I think if anyone like you and me, we're super obsessed, we're super committed to the gym, and we do need something to force us not to go. Even on holiday, like, I'll try and get to gyms and stuff, and actually I really enjoy it. Like, we both enjoy the gym, and if I can get something in on holiday, I will. So the only time I really force actually have a break is if I'm super ill or depleted.
But this is something else. I mean, this is personal preferences in terms of when you really seriously want to train on holiday. I did it in the past always. Like when I was in New York, when I was in Tokyo, I was in Tokyo for a 2 weeks membership of Gold's Gym. They have Gold's Gym there as well. But this is personal preferences. But there's nothing wrong when you were to pick a place with your girlfriend, let's say, you want to go to, I don't know, Timbuktu, Bali, where there's no gym at all, or only the gym of the hotel. Man, go there. Don't pick your destination only because there's a gym around. I did it in the past. I admit that, right? But don't be like that. Come on. There's more to it than only being in the training like 365 days a year.
Totally. When me and Charlotte went to Australia, it was very much, if there was a gym, there was a gym. If there wasn't, there wasn't. Like, I'm not going to go out of my way to make the holiday unenjoyable or like be awkward, just kind of be accommodating. It's a short period of time. So,
but I also have the feeling that this comes with training, age, and experience, that you're getting more mature and or you realize that it's okay to take some time off. Because I have the feeling that the most extreme approaches come from the ones who are new to the field, in terms of nutrition and also in terms of training, right? That the newbies, they think they need to hit the gym like 6 days a week, twice daily. I see so many people now where when higher frequency was promoted, like last year or two, where the Norwegian frequency study, everyone was jumping on it and everyone was just saying, okay, this is this thing, what I need to do now. And even like people who only trained for 1 or 2 years wanted to jump on that train. And the same applies to nutrition. I see it so often that the newbies actually get on the train, like tracking so meticulously, and let's say intermittent fasting, like being in that fasting window, hit it like when you're just over it, like you're only fasting for 15 hours. Yeah, the fast wasn't working at all and you're not losing anymore, right? That those extreme approaches come from a base. Well, I think that not having the knowledge actually leads to doing such extreme approaches, right? And the knowledge comes with training experience and in general experience whatsoever, right? And I think that this then gives you some more flexibility in the future. And I can see with myself, and I think you probably experience it as well.
Yeah, I think with maturity, training, nutrition maturity is a great cure for any insecurities you have in terms of your kind of loss of muscle mass or potential missing out on gains. Just experience within the field is a great kind of cure for all of that. But yeah, I think we touched on. Is there anything else you wanted to add on your?
No, I just wanted also to make the transition now because I was just like, okay, we touched on so many things now, but we were serious. Yeah, totally. I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't, but I mean, there happened so much for you as well over the past, 2 weeks actually. And I want to catch up with you as well a little bit. So I think the best thing to start with would actually be if you give us a brief overview what happened at the UKDFBA.
Yep.
And then, what's happening now and in the next 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 weeks.
So I've got my little twin here.
Oh.
Who I won, and he's huge. He's freaking jacked. And actually much bigger than the other one I won. And I've got it here on my desk, and I look at him every day, and I'm just like, it makes me super proud. I went into this season with zero expectations of myself. I didn't expect to place particularly well in any shows, which you might, it's part of my character. I'd probably say it's a bit of a flaw where I'm slightly underconfident. I totally don't go onto stage and think I've got a worthless physique, but sometimes I do go, and I have in the past thought of myself as kind of not undeserving, but not like I don't stand my own, and like I'm very much just there and the judges aren't really paying attention to me. But the more I've done these shows, the more I've actually placed really well. There was 12 of us, and I came third and joint second. I was just absolutely flabbergasted. I mean, Pascal, you'll be able to watch back the footage because Charlotte filmed it all, but when they were calling out the top 5, I was actually stood there looking up at the ceiling like, oh my god, I didn't come 5th. Come 4th. I was like, at this point I was thinking, maybe I didn't place at all, but I thought I'd been, because I got first call outs with 2 other guys, and like the most big jack guy was in the middle. I was like, okay, obviously like this is 1st, 2nd, 3rd potentially. And then when I got called, like when they said it's a joint split decision between 3rd and 2nd place, I was like, okay, now I know I'm going to have got 3rd because this is typical Steve, who's going to get 3rd and not get the split decision going his way. And when I got 3rd, I was just like, I was over the moon. I think I probably looked more elated and happy than the guys who got 1st and 2nd, because I was so proud to have done that. So yeah, came 3rd, and the day was, I mean, it was very typical to how the NPA day went. Actually, the difference I did this time was in the morning, I did do a bit of a pump kind of session. So I went after talking to Dr. Joe, who that podcast probably won't have come out just yet, but we talked about different things in regards to peak week, and then also consulting with Broderick. It was found to be a good idea to try and do a bit of kind of cardio and then a bit of a pump session just in the hotel and get a sweat on first thing. And the main purpose for that was basically just to make me very sensitive to nutrition coming in during the day. And I think it probably did help, but not noticeably. I think there's a lot that goes on during peak week that might help, but you're not sure. I think because we know peak week's such a minute detail, it's tiny. And the more I think about peak week, the more I look into it, and I've done a lot of looking into it, the more I think people place too much emphasis on that and not enough on other elements such as tan, such as poise, such as posing, such as getting a good pump before going up on stage. All of those elements I actually think are probably more concerning than what you might get those tiny benefits on peak week. So anyway, I did that in the morning. And then I just had some usual meals with me through the day, and I was just watching the shows. Something I probably do that is a detriment to myself is that I don't relax. Like, I'm not stressed through the day, but I stand on my feet. I carry all my bags. I have like my big Revive Stronger bag that's full of lots of different things, and they're heavy. And whereas I should probably try and sit down, relax, because it's a stress just being on your feet. And kind of, if you're on your feet all day, your legs get tired. They might hold on to a little bit more water because of that. So I tried to sit down a bit more. I had my legs elevated for a period of time. But the show began. I mean, I think I got weighed in at 11, and my weight category was 70 to 80 kilos. And the guy that won was literally like 79.7 kilos. I'm 75 basically. So he had 5 kilos on me. So no doubt, he was jacked. So I actually wasn't on stage. Weighed in at 11, then had my tan straight afterwards, and then had a second coat of tan at like 2:30, and then we weren't on stage until 6 p.m. So really late in the day. It's a long day, especially for men's bodybuilding. You're always kind of on last. So there's a lot of watching the other classes, sitting down, talking to. We had lots of our clients there watching, which was awesome to have. And then it was just, I think it, like last time, I think I talked about it in that it is just a lot of sitting, waiting around. It was really well run. And I was very happy with how that all went. Got my pump up, went on stage, and we were on stage for quite a while because they kind of call out 5 people at a time. So because there was 12 of us, I think there was like 3 rounds of like 4 to 5 people who were being compared. And then, I got first comparisons, did posing routines, and then, one came third and was pretty happy with it. And looking back at photos, I think possibly was a bit flat on the day. I don't think the photo quality's brilliant again.
No, unfortunately not.
I think I probably look a bit leaner. I think I probably came in a bit tighter. I think my posing was pretty much on par. Didn't really change much apart from tucking the glutes rather than forcing them back. And I think that's something I'm probably going to keep going forward. Again, I talked to, actually something when we'll touch about it in a minute, but I talked to Jeff Alberts about it, and he was like, he hates, so I actually talked about how you hate it as well, the butt being stuck out. He sees it as quite feminine, and it takes away from the back, and it shows off the glutes brilliantly, but he just overall thinks it doesn't show a balanced physique. He's I actually had a consult with him recently going over my posing, because actually I guess I should go over my feedback from the judges, because I think it's important as an athlete, if you really care about your placing, you want to do your best to try and get that feedback. And I know it's difficult if you're not on kind of late in the day, then you have to wait the whole day to get the judges.
But it's important, I think.
Yeah.
And it's worth the wait.
So I spoke to a couple of the judges who I kind of recognize them as judges, because sometimes you don't even know exactly who the judges are. If you haven't been like studying them, you might miss. So one of them who actually I competed against in 2014, and he's now a world pro. So I did this show in 2014 as a novice, and he took first place. I took 5th. Or 4th actually, sorry. And so he's now, he then competed last year, I think, and then went pro on the world stage. Wow. He had a great physique back when I competed against him, and it's only got better and more conditioned. So he told me a few things. I think I went over these with you, and I might miss some, but I think it was be more confident on stage, demand the judges' attention, which I know I can improve on, because now I'm going to go on stage when I'm at the finals and be very confident. I think I should be. And he said, play to your strengths more, show off the glute striations, the feathered triceps, try and manipulate some poses potentially to make my waist look a bit slimmer, get darker tan. He said, but otherwise, like, conditioning was on point, and kind of, there's not a lot. He was like, there's not a lot you can do in the short term, but you're going to have to, like, years again in the gym, years building, you'll be able to come and you'll be able to take first place at these shows. So that was a great confidence builder. And then I spoke to another judge, and he was like, do you want my honest feedback? I was like, yeah, that's all I want, honest feedback. He said, I had you down as 5th. And he said, basically, you don't have as like broad shoulders, basically talking to my aesthetic bodybuilding type physique. Like, my frame just isn't very pleasing to the eye, which I completely understand, and I agreed with him. So this is where I was like, right, I need to get my posing as dialed in as I can to make my physique look as pleasing to the eye as possible, because
so really create that illusion.
Yeah, create the illusion of that tiny waist, that X frame. So who better than Jeff Alberts to do that? We know he's got his posing guides. You've got them, I've got them. We've looked through them. They're fantastic, but the consult was way worth the time and money invested. And I've got another one with him because the detail he goes into on every single pose was insane. Looking at them from every angle, holding them, trying different positions. And it was an incredible experience. And I can't thank him enough for it because we've worked through most of my poses now. And I think the slight tweaks, we might be able to work them out ourselves, Pascal, but having his knowledgeable, experienced eye tell me that this looks better. You look thicker, you look bigger. That helps so much because when you're not experienced, when you don't know, you haven't seen tons of competitors and you're looking at yourself, maybe you can't be as objective about your physique. It helps so much having that experienced eye tell you look 10 times thicker. Like comments like that, I was like, I'm going to go into finals now with these poses dialed in, feeling really confident. And it's going to take some practice to try and perfect these, but I've got 2 weeks now and I'm going to do my best, very best because I want a placing in this finals. I don't want to go there and not place.
I mean, now you said it yourself, you have 2 weeks time and now it's all about practicing. And yeah, we talked about it right before the UKDFBA when it comes to posing and all that kind of stuff. You want to actually have an automated process. It's like I said the analogy of being in a band.
It was great.
You're practicing not because you don't know these songs. You actually can play them. You know which part comes next. You know the notes, all that kind of stuff. But the practice is only to make you perfect so that when you're on stage, you don't think about it anymore because of you are actually under pressure. People look at you. You want to be able to actually execute other things and be a bit more flexible. You want to move around. You want to interact with the crowd and all that kind of stuff. And this is only possible when you have an automated process in your mind and you know the movements as good as possible so that you could execute it while you're sleeping, actually, right? And this is the same way. When it comes to the band practice, you're getting in, you're practicing every single week with your band or every single day when you're doing it professionally, not because you don't know the songs, you're not secure with the songs, but to ingrain every single step of the song so that when you're stepping on stage, you're super confident, you're super flexible, you only need to execute, you don't really need to think about it.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, that's where I am with my posing routine, which doesn't even get counted towards things like I know I just need to flow through the motions in that. And if I get the motions right, if you've practiced your posing enough, you'll be able to hit those motions in the right kind of positions and things. But these were very like the small tweaks, for example, that we were doing was things like when I'm doing my front double bicep, like wrist position. I'd always just kind of had it slightly forward because I thought that brought about the best. But he's like, no, bring it in for your arm. This will make it look bigger. And then if I rotate my elbow under and don't come forward at all, really think about rotating that elbow under, more tricep will show, slightly tweaking positions. When I do my front relax, it was things like, you'll get into the position, but you're slightly leaning back. And he was like, just lean forwards, like just tilt. It's just tiny little things like that. But when you're like, those tiny movements can make such a dramatic impression in your physique. So yeah, I'm really excited for that. And I'm going to do my absolute best to try and nail those in because yeah, it's hard because even small things like I'd only recently realized how I wasn't engaging my hamstrings as much as I could because I wasn't curling my toes down and back against the floor. I was pushing my foot down and back like a leg curl, but not curling the toe with it. And that curl of the toe is actually essential because it then turns on a few extra hamstring muscle fibers. And I have lean enough hamstrings so you can see that, whereas a lot of the competitors won't. And Jeff was like, yeah, you mean you're probably going to be the most conditioned guy on stage. You get like potentially one of the most conditioned guys on stage. And obviously you need to play to your strengths, and like showing off all of those details is essential. So that's one thing I've been working on. And then because I am one of the most conditioned, and I did feel I potentially looked a bit flat on stage, that was discussed with Broderick, and the peaking strategy was discussed. And basically it's one of those situations where I kind of talked about it being like a golden bullet or silver bullet, or I can't remember what it is in like James Bond, where it's like a one-shot gun, like one-shot approach kills. And we know this, as you use something more and more, the body gets more and more adapted to it. And so he was like, I think he said, his words were, I looked tired on stage, like my physique looked a bit tired. And I think it was going through the depletion and then loading didn't work to the same degree as it did the first time. And I know from going through it, it wasn't as hard a depletion, and the loading didn't feel that special. Whereas the first time it felt like there was definitely something going on here.
But just to interrupt you there, it could also potentially be because you cut it short, right? This time it was a shorter kind of depletion week, and followed by a shorter load, replenishment, right?
So yeah, it was a cut one day either side. But actually, and me and Broderick both agreed that after probably 3 days of depletion, I was basically as depleted as I could, because my body weight stabilized for 3 days at like 161 for like 3 days. It wouldn't go any lower, despite I got my carbs lower this time than last time, and it still just wouldn't budge down. So he thinks I depleted sooner, which is likely because I'd been dieting for that much longer. I was that much leaner. And then the load probably, and I just don't think it was enough. I think it probably tapered too aggressive, like the total load for the week wasn't enough, basically. So by the end, I kind of lost a bit of it. And this happened last time as well, where my weight was a bit lower on show day. And then show day is a bit too late to try and like make up for a poor, because you don't want to eat loads of food, your stomach becomes distended. You can only kind of assimilate carbohydrates at such a rate. Like using carbs are not your tool on show day. From a biological standpoint, you can't assimilate carbs that quickly. Like you can't load carbs into your muscles within like few hours. We know this. Meals take hours to digest, and then actually getting that kind of loaded into a muscle takes a long time as well. So it's really water and sodium are your tools on show day, because they can have acute effects. So anyway, having discussed this, we basically think I'd have to start depleting tomorrow, basically, if I was going to do a depletion and then load. And we both agreed that it just wouldn't help anything. I'd just end up looking more ragged on stage. It wouldn't have the same kind of super compensation effect, would be very hard to come by. And so I'm actually discussing with him basically just reversing into both shows. So just building calories up to somewhat close to maintenance. Maybe I'll do a bit of a refeed beforehand. So a bit like 3DMJ's approach, where they just kind of keep things very steady. They take that refeed, maybe they double the refeed, and then kind of adjust looking on feedback on how the physique's looking and go into the show. I even discussed it with Jeff, and he was like, he's tried loads of different things and to get the special super compensation effects, or even like the backloading, things like that. He says when you can pull it off, it's great, but the degree of kind of getting it right is difficult. It's also a stressor on the body, and the degree of difference it makes isn't that huge. And if you can get your posing, all of these things on point instead, I think that's probably more important. So it looks like I'm not going to bother doing any sort of peaking protocol for either show, particularly apart from peaking. Like I'll be dialing back training a little bit. So that in itself will help with maybe kind of like a refeed-esque, because I'll keep calories higher, but I'll be reducing activity. So I think for me, that'll be better as well, because often when I look at my physique, like days after the show, I'll be getting great pumps and I'll be looking fantastic in the gym. And I'm like, I think I almost look just as good now as when I super compensate. And so I'm still not convinced either way whether actual peaking is something a physique athlete should necessarily do. I think it'll probably become down to the individual. For myself at the moment, we'll see how this goes, but I'm excited to kind of not peak.
Man, I think this is so interesting because, again, it brings down or brings back the point we've just talked about over the past weeks when we discussed peak weeks, that it's so individual and that you really need to, go through a try and error phase, right? What you're doing right now, you are actually your own case study, and I think this is so interesting. And this is what I love about training in general, like experimenting with your mental and physical state, right? Finding out what works for you and your body and what doesn't work as well. And the same applies now to the peak week. And this is also something you can't really do that frequently. So it makes it even more special in that time frame to actually really have a close look at everything and follow every single step meticulously to then find out, okay, does this or was this the reason for X, Y, and Z, or was it because of the other things I did, right? And I think this is so interesting about peak weeks and also, manipulating certain variants.
I think it's really interesting to me because it almost frustrating because, and I can see why this peak weeks would never be able to be studied, because you can never ever replicate a peak week. Like every single one's going to be different. Like my first peak week was different to my second because the circumstances were different. I'd experienced this one, I hadn't experienced this, but I was experienced here, I wasn't experienced here. I was a bit leaner here, I was less lean here. It's the same with like 3DMJ's approach and I can understand it to some degrees, in they have their refeeds and they kind of use those as ways of assessing what a peak might look like. But peak week in itself is a completely different week to every other week that you've ever gone through, because you're slightly changing your training, your psychology slightly changing, you have to travel maybe. Like there's so many things that change every single time that although you can practice it, you can't practice it. So it's like, what? And then that makes me feel more secured by the non-peaky approach, because it's like, well, the less you change, the less that can go wrong. So if everything's always changing, it's so dynamic, every week of prep is different, why try and change anything too much? So it's kind of comforting at the same time. Whether my views will change, I don't know. But approaches we've taken with clients for peaking them have been conservative. They seem to work pretty damn well. I don't know.
Totally. No, I think, how long are we in now?
We are 40 minutes in, so we're probably coming. Okay. I don't know if there's anything I need to clarify. So I'm now exactly 2 weeks out and 13 days out, because one show's on a Sunday, one show's on a Saturday. I need to do a lot of booking TANs, booking hotels, booking a car, hiring a car, because it's all getting very expensive, Pascal. And so the next few weeks for me are going to be building calories. So right now I'm on 180 to 190 protein, 40 to 45 fat. So I'm trying to keep my fat nice and low, because even when I come out of prep, and we'll talk about this, I want to keep my fat around that 40 to 45 for the most part. It won't always, because I'm going to want to go out for like pizza, and that will bring my fats up. But I'm building carbs, so I'm on around 310 to 320. And from tomorrow, I'm going to go up probably 20 to 30 grams, maybe close to that 30 gram mark. My cardio is pretty much nothing. I'm on 550 calories of list for the week. You could almost call that just warm up cardio, so it's nothing. Steps are averaging 12 to 14,000. So I'll probably bring those down to more like 12. And they're very much I just kind of hit those in the day. They're not a stressor. So actually my expenditure's not greatly high. And I'm going to be, slowly building towards hopefully a bit of a maintenance and just assessing how my physique's looking. When I look in the mirror today, today I looked at myself and I was like, that's the leanest I've ever looked. So
And I think that, you mentioned it just like when trying to manipulate certain things in the peak week, why not keep it the same and reduce stress levels by that? And perhaps you're looking even better because you don't stress about manipulating all the variables, right?
Yeah.
And I'm really looking forward to how this peak week is going. Well, I don't know if you really or can really call it peak week. The preparation leading into the competition is going, and the competition itself, I mean, the UKDFBA finals will be amazing.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks after that, the NPA finals will be, right? No, 1 week.
Yeah, less than a week.
Yeah.
6 days.
So really exciting time here in the next 3 to 4 weeks. And then after that,
bring on all the pizza.
Yeah.
And I'll touch training quickly. I think I'm mostly just going to reduce any chance of soreness towards the last few days. So I'll probably, next week's as per usual. But for the weeks, I just won't go anywhere near failure. I'll probably just keep next week's intensity where I'm like 2 reps in reserve. I'll keep 2 to 3 reps in reserve those next 2 weeks. Keep volume pretty much stable, and get rid of any kind of heavy eccentric work. Sure. So I might actually just drop my straight leg deadlifts and put in some more kind of leg curls or maybe back extensions, something like that, to get that volume equated. And then, I mean, it will be like 2 weeks of pretty deloady training. So I might actually take a deload after the NPA, and then, it will be a case of bringing on all the mass.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to everything that is going on here in the next weeks. It's going to be really exciting, not only for you, but also for me, sitting on the other side, following everything. And I mean, exciting times.
Exactly. And I can't wait to share it with everyone. And I just want to thank everyone for their ongoing support and love, and the amount of comments I've got. In terms of the comments that have really meant a lot to me are not the ones where people are saying, oh, you look shredded, you look diced, like you're the leanest one there, you look the best, you should have come first, or something like that. They're nice, they don't mean anything to me, really. The ones that mean a lot to me, and I've had some clients say this, is you are a really great example for the sport of how it should be done, of how bodybuilding should be done. People who are saying they look up to me as an example for kind of competing on stage, or people who have said like you're like, I was an underdog, like the fact I've done this good has given them loads of motivation to transform their physique, because they didn't necessarily think they had what it took, but now they feel like, oh, like someone like Steve, who is maybe more normal, I'm not like an elite athlete or anything, or like genetically amazing. Comments like that, especially the ones where it's like you're a good, I can't think of the word, like a good example of someone,
a role model,
yeah, like a role model prep. That means a lot to me, because that's what I want.
No, absolutely, and totally agree. And I mean, the thing is that you're not doing it to to give the Instagram shreds fame or something like that, but more so to provide first and foremost value to the people, and also, be a role model, show the people that kind of everything is possible. As cheesy as it might sound, but you did put it so much work and effort into getting to where you're at, and you will definitely be and take first places in the future. That's for sure. I told you that so frequently here over the past weeks and months, and I'm absolutely certain that this is going to happen. And you said it yourself, you have not the best built body in terms of for bodybuilding, but you are not disheartened. You are still putting in the work and effort, and you are trying to become the best version of yourself, and also kind of disprove the naysayers, right? And I think that there's so much for the people to take from that, and to actually apply for themselves, that work and effort. I don't want to say it out loud, but work and effort beats talent. Right.
I think the lesson I've learned, a huge lesson, is you've got lots of cards to play with in bodybuilding. If you can get conditioned, you can have good symmetry, and like posing is a hidden element that you can play with to make these kind of work to your favor. But everyone can get conditioned, so at least do that, bring that. Everyone can do that. So, but no, it means a lot. And yeah, I think hard work and effort can definitely beat out talent sometimes.
Yeah, unless talent
works hard.
Works hard, yeah.
I think that's a good place to leave it, I think.
Totally. On that note, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. As always, rate, review wherever you can, on iTunes, on YouTube, subscribe, leave a comment. All that kind of stuff is highly appreciated. And check out our exclusive Facebook group, revivestrongler.com. Go in there, because right now we are asking or collecting some questions for Q&As, and we are also doing a live Q&A with Broderick Chavez on Wednesday the 19th, actually, right?
Yeah.
So apply and
come join the crew, and
join the crew.
We'll have links to if you want
the circle.
If you want to apply for coaching for next year, or even if you just don't even want to compete, it might be many years down the line, we'll be more than happy to have you on board. So yeah, we'll have links for that below as well. So cheers, guys. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.